Shannon? Maroney.
Maloney.
Maloney.
Yeah.
Okay. Shannon Maloney. Shannon Maloney, what do you do now?
I am a regional account manager for NCC Group, so a sales.
Got you.
So-
Sales in sort of a technical field.
Yep.
He did. So, like, what got you interested in this particular business? Or was it... Well, wait. Let me tell you something. The other day, I was in the backyard, and my wife was looking at me, and she said, Drew, would you please stop pretending to be a flamingo? And, I just cannot have that kind of shit in my life. And that's when I put my foot down. Get it?
That's
Get it?
very, very good.
Thank
I
you.
like that.
All
No,
right.
actually, I'm a big fan of dad jokes.
The dad humor?
Yes,
All right, so
I share it.
you have come to the right place. All right,
Yeah.
so what got you interested in working where you work now?
A friend of mine.
Okay.
So
So you knew somebody.
yes.
This is a recurring theme around here.
Yes, this is a very great story. So I think it's great because it's about connections, people you meet in your life. So my roommate from college introduced me to my roommate that was after college.
Okay.
So
Was there a crossover there where
They
you
were-
all were living together at the same time?
Yep.
And
So
okay.
there were friends in high school. So then I met. So my roommate from college had a friend who lived in Chicago. I wanted to move to Chicago. So
I worked for the Tribune for 20-some years. That might not have been the best move.
and then I lived with my then roommate for 2 years. She became my best friend, and we stayed in contact for about 20 years. In the meantime, she built her own company with her husband
Wow.
to start a managed security services company.
Got you.
And at that time that we got in touch and we were talking, she was looking for people that she trusts and that she feels comfortable bringing into her company. And because of our relationship throughout the years, she came to me and asked if I would be interested. At the time, I did not know what I wanted to do, and so I was going down the path of, I guess I'll follow psychology because I like it, but I don't know how I'm going to make money in it.
Nobody does. Really, you can get a
Plus, I-
master's degree and earn
And-
$40,000
and I was
a year.
hoping that in my 30s, I might actually want to go through the PhD program, which was getting more daunting as you get closer.
Look, I'm 45. I'm halfway through mine. I hope to
So-
be done by the time I'm 50.
Yeah. And then I wasn't even sure I really wanted to do that at the
Right.
end of the day. So she came to me and said, look, I know you. I know that you love people. You love random, quirky conversation. And you love to constantly learn.
Okay.
And I think this job will be great for you. And she was right.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up. And of all the things that I've done quite a bit. I've enjoyed working in this industry because of the people the most.
I feel like we have a genuinely accepting and good vibe in this industry. We sometimes get a bad rap.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your relationship to tech when you were younger was basically meh.
I played on my Amiga.
Okay.
If that gives you an idea of my age.
Yep, you officially
that
dated
was,
yourself.
And then once we went to Nintendo and all those other things, I lost interest. So yeah, that my most. Yeah.
It was you. So did you have, like, I just got done talking to Sophia. She had, like, computer camp in third grade. Did you even have computers at
No.
school? We were on the cutting edge at my elementary school. We actually had a Commodore 64 lab
Oh, nice.
where we got to explore. Yeah, it was a rich kid school.
I think we did at our school too. I just avoided it.
Oh, you're just like, nah.
Yeah. When email first came out and people were doing email maybe my senior year, the strange thing on the computer, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Do
I
you
didn't want
have to do email now?
Well, yes, of course. But when I was my first year of college, we had the kiosk emails where you line up and you're doing this brand new thing where you're communicating with friends across the country.
Instantaneously.
And you would stand in line to be able to do this.
Oh, I feel you. Like, I wonder if people from Gen Z appreciate, like, just how, like, a lot of us in the cybers writ large, I think in our childhood, computers were becoming a thing. And for some of us, we were just like, wow. I remember holding my first Game Boy and thinking, like, I have a portal to another dimension in my hand. And it's got gargoyles that shoot laser beams in it.
Yeah.
But for the Utes, it's kind of always been there. It's not as impressive as that.
Yeah, I remember researching for a paper online and feeling like I was cheating.
Oh,
And it
like
was
I'm totally not getting done with a PhD without the internet.
Comfortable. Yeah, I was very uncomfortable citing the internet as my resource. Now I'm uncomfortable for different reasons.
I was going to say,
but-
I don't think I cite anything but. I cite a lot of academic journal articles, but they're PDFs I got on a computer. You know? So this might be a little more relevant to you at this point. It sounds like you had pretty good mentors. Do you mentor or mentee? Do you have a relationship like that has helped you get to where you are?
Absolutely. And not necessarily, again, in the cybersecurity area, but just people I've met along my way that have just at the right time, right place, have popped into my life to give me advice that have gotten to where I am today. So my background's a little bit disjointed, so I might not have the story that most people might have where they have that mentee throughout
I
life.
have found that most people's backgrounds are disjointed,
Okay.
so it's not just you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I grew up with a father who stayed in the same career his whole life, so
Not a lot of that going on these days.
I'm odd to my family.
Right. Right, interesting. So if you could go back to before email and talk to your younger self, what kind of advice do you think you might give?
I would, one, say that when people say be cognizant or careful of the company that you keep, that the sooner that you learn that and the sooner that you focus on the good qualities and not necessarily just the fun qualities of people, but creating that support group, creating that network is very important. That's just what comes to mind right now that's been relevant maybe within the last few days of maybe people I've mentored.
Sure.
But yeah, it's very important, the people you keep, because you will keep attracting the same type of people
Right.
throughout your life.
So of the like folks in this industry, so far, what do you like and what do you dislike about this scene, if you will?
This specific Gurkhan scene or cybersecurity?
Both. So Gurkhan in particular and cyber in general.
So the things that I dislike are just things that you have to go through in life with anything, and that's just navigating the waters of life and people, right? Sometimes you run into scenarios that you have to learn from.
Sure.
And
Do you have a for instance that you can share without disclosing any names or anything?
well, it's just in general that interacting with people and learning how to work with people there's an art to it.
For sure.
And you can either just choose to accept the scenario that you're in and say, oh, this is life. This is just what it is. And sometimes be okay with that. Maybe you fell into a good place, or maybe you didn't, and you're taking some behaviors from people that aren't good. Or you can learn from that experience, become a stronger person, learn how to say, no, this isn't good, and go find what is good for you. And I like it because it's a learning experience, but it is sometimes disheartening that you will always run into people that are not in your best interest and people that are. That's why I go back to the beginning, where it's important that you create that network early who are there to support you and your goals to
Right.
get you where you're going.
Remind me that old saw about like show me the friends and I'll show you the man, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We missed the things I like.
Yes, we did not. I was just about to say.
Which it's the people. So it's weird because even though I'm saying the people's kind of what I don't like, the people is what I love.
Certain people is what
Yeah.
I'm taking away from that.
Yep. And, life is, you have the ability to create the life that you want if you choose to take on that power, recognize that power, and use that. So there's always going to be people that are not great, but there are amazing people out there too. So I feel fortunate that I've found that within this industry.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we have more of it than most. We attract quirky and weird people.
And I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
your flamingo story was great.
Might have
so-
been a conscious attempt to get somebody to relax.
Well, you actually made me think about how I stand like a flamingo sometimes.
I think I called that tree pose. I'm
Like-
doing
like
yoga
when
in
you-
my kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm advised never to set my foot against the knee itself. Always
Oh.
above the knee.
yeah. So I didn't know I did it, but in high school, my friends would point out, like, while I'm standing in line, that I'm just standing like that.
Looking like a flamingo.
And yeah, so you reminded me that I need to put my foot down. So
literally and figuratively. Excellent. So somebody told me a great idea for a question I should be asking people. What do you hope to accomplish in this business, in this career of yours?
I would say this is a long-term goal because I'm still trying to figure out how to do this, but I am in the right place right now, I feel, to do it, but help to encourage diversity within the industry, which to me is, and I believe to a lot of people, really figuring out how to grow the number of people that are in the industry, educate them so that they know this is here and this is possible, and work within diverse communities in order to send that message out, particularly. So,
Gotcha. So if you were going to come up with some concrete program, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
What would that program look like? How would you build a system that helps accomplish that end?
So I've thought about it a bit, and I went for psychology when I went to get my second bachelor's degree, because why get an MBA and an MA when you can get a bachelor's?
The second bachelor's degree? I know they cost a little bit less.
Not everybody does that, so I just try to be different. So Wayne State University, it's in Michigan.
Airplanes.
It's one of the most diverse campuses.
For sure. Some of that by virtue of its location.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And it's a very underprivileged population. A lot of research is done there simply because of the population. And I worked with a research lab on homelessness and poverty there, which I worked also on figuring out how to work with the new attendees, the new students, in order to get them prepared for a successful time on campus. Because I didn't even realize how fortunate I was that a lot of the worries about how do you get funded, just how do you even get started into the life on campus, and I don't even know how to say what it is because I had so much support around me to get comfortable with a college experience. But
I tell you what, to be honest, I have never had a college experience.
Really?
As you're describing. I was a community college student. I did my bachelor's, my first master's, and most of the second master's all online. I've never had that luxury.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like.
Yeah, and so a lot of these kids have never been prepared in their childhood to even know how to be successful, and then they're brought to a college to try to be successful.
Right. Good luck.
And how do they even know how to understand their own food program or their health program or their financial aid program?
I think the academic answer is the first-year experience class that we're going to enroll you in, and we'll teach you all those things.
Well, our goal was to bring the psychology students in to help give them the opportunity to use their learning skill set and help mentor the kids coming in on a mental health level as well as on a guidance level to get them up and started on the right foot.
I'm involved. I'm co-principal investigator on a grant where we're doing that with these Scholars for Service grants, where we're trying to have one generation nurture the next generation.
Yeah, and so
shout out to Lonnie Decker at Davenport,
right? Because they're getting real experience with giving help, health services, and then you're also helping the next generation be successful. And Wayne State would be interested in it because then they can get higher graduation rates, and that puts the school on the map.
That is how the federal government likes to grade us.
Yes.
Did you have completers?
So within that, and I don't know how yet, but I did reach out to my mentor there, the professor who I did the research for, and he don't think he really knows what to do yet, but reach out him with a suggestion of figuring out how to help this population become more aware of cybersecurity, create a program, which I have connections with people who are doing programs outside of universities to help fulfill whatever they're not offering within their cybersecurity program to get them ready for a real career in cybersecurity. And then as well offer, because again, the company I'm at is very big into inclusion, which I like that they say that as opposed to just diversity, because it's inclusive.
Usually we want to do DEI. We talk a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, yeah. So I think with the company I'm at now, I now have the resources where I can combine and actually be effective versus where I've been
previously
in the past. So
excellent. I'm on board. Well, I appreciate you helping me think through this problem. It's a lot of work, and I don't know as I figured it out yet.
Yeah, so it's not super concrete, but I'm working towards it. And there's a gentleman that I work with now that the reason I'm working where I'm at, which is a new company, is because he posted about exactly this topic about getting diversity into the cybersecurity field, and he's working towards it. So, yeah.
Gotcha. What kind of concrete steps other than his hiring practices are apparently?
He's trying to figure it out, too.
Yeah.
I think that's it, but making the connections with these organizations that are going out and doing the training, spreading the word to campuses that might not be familiar or may not be doing it correctly to say, hey, we have something that we can do. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is targeting the right campuses, right? You got to go out and find the Wayne States or wherever else has
the Grand Rapids Community Colleges,
yeah, Grand Rapids
for example.
Community College. So to do that rather than just focus where the money already is at, right? So.
Right. Excellent. Well, was there any question you think I should have asked you that I failed to ask, or anything that you wanted to say to wrap up?
I can't think right now.
All right. You did pretty good.
That was pretty good. You got a lot out of me. I think I'm not going to press my luck any further.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your insight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you hear me? I hear you. I hear you. Who the heck are you?
My name is Esquire.
Esquire, a pleasure to meet you.
I'm a cybersecurity professional.
Professional? It's a loose term around here, but
I get paid for it, so
that's kind of what it means to be a professional in America. Like I was an engineer by virtue of Microsoft calling me one, and I went to Germany to visit my brother, and they're like, you're an engineer. Oh, you passed the engineering exam. I was like, I guess. Apparently over there, the qualifications, you have to do stuff to get them. So, Esquire, what do you do now? Can you just give me a day in the life of security engineering?
When there's security things that need to be set up in our organization, then I help delve into how they can be set up for that organization.
Okay, that's pretty vague. So I've got a IDS or an IPS, and we're going to implement that sucker, and I come to...
It's more like, okay, if we were going to change our antivirus for the company, then
you were going to get some of that sweet endpoint security and response stuff, not that cheap old antivirus.
Yeah, EDR, antivirus, firewalls, whatever's going to be changed, I help to design how it's going to work in this company.
Got you. And so what's your career path look like to get you to this point?
As in where I started from?
Yeah.
All right, so I started in IT probably 25 years ago. I started working at a computer store, and then I moved into doing IT training and then some consulting. I ended up doing my own consulting company and managing an IT department for a little while, and then I started working for a school district. And from there, I moved on to the company that I'm with now. During that time, I picked up different certifications all along the way, just depending on what was needed of me. When I was doing the trainings, I would pick up certifications just to allow me to be able to teach
those certifications. I have a similar story. So I did half a master's degree with the SANS Institute, basically, so I could teach those classes if I needed to.
Right.
So what interested you in technology from the beginning? You look like you're someplace in between. I've talked to some of the very Gen Zs, and I'm sort of a young Gen X, and our experiences of computers as kids is hugely different. I was right. I got the first Commodore 64. It was coming online. Cell phones were freaking magic at that point. So what was your young impact with computers like?
So my uncle, when I was very young, had a Tandy 1000, I believe it was, from Radio Shack. And so that was of interest. I also did have a Intellivision gaming system, which I thought that was amazing.
Is that before or after ColecoVision?
I think that might have been before.
Okay.
And then Commodore 64s are where I started learning how to do any kind of programming on. This was all in my elementary school days. It was very early on. And but I enjoyed just messing around with the computer items with friends. there was a little bit of a gap in there where I went into the military, and I did some other stuff that was not computer related at all. But then once I came out,
or blowing stuff up stuff, or supplying people to blow stuff up?
No, actually fixing people up stuff.
Oh,
I was a corpsman.
Combat medic?
Yeah. So, yeah, after I got out of the military, I decided that computers was the direction that I really wanted to go. That had been my hobby for a long time, and something that I thought, that'll probably be pretty viable in the future.
Right. So what were, you mentioned certifications, which are very popular in our industry. What was your sort of experience with education around tech? Especially, like, one of the things we're finding is, like, our school was we were the Catholic school for sort of the rich kids. If you're familiar with Grand Rapids, I went to IHM, but we were kind of from the wrong side of the tracks. But we had a lab that was all Commodore 64s, so like I don't remember learning how to walk, learning how to swim, or learning how to code. They were just things I'd been able to do my whole life. Did you have that experience in school, or was that something you just had because your uncle had a Tandy 1000?
Yeah, going through school, I didn't have any computer classes, no computer training. That just wasn't really much of an option.
Right.
I remember in middle school, I had already been into computers on my own for a while, and we got a new typing lab that had some sort of old computer. Maybe it was a Commodore PET or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't actually remember. It's been a long time.
I learned to type on an IBM Selectric in high school, so like...
Nice. So I remember getting in trouble for throwing a pencil at somebody during typing class. It was like the first week of typing class. Teacher told me to write 500 lines, so when she walked out of the room, I wrote a short little script to write the 500 lines
she told
for
you to write
me.
It on the computer?
Yeah, to type it, because it was typing
10,
class.
If n equals 500, stop.
Yeah, yep. And so she came back in like 3 or 4 minutes later, and I was done with these 500 lines, and...
I'm a phenomenal typist.
I was amazing. I actually left that class shortly after that to do more art kind of stuff.
For sure. So you talked about certifications. Like my LinkedIn has like a embarrassing amount of certifications because I worked at Tribune, and there was a time at Tribune where they wanted you to have the cert if you were going to touch the thing. So like if you were going to work on Exchange, you had to go to Microsoft School and get the Exchange cert.
Yep.
How have you felt like those impacted your career? In addition to being able to make a little side money teaching them.
Right. For the longest time, those were the only thing that... Those were what my career was based on. I actually didn't get my degrees up until basically COVID hit, and then I went to school and...
Like, I got some time on my hands.
I had time on my hands, so over the last couple of years, I got a bachelor's and a master's. Along with
Where'd
that...
you go to school?
Pardon?
Where'd you go to school?
Western Governors University.
WGU? So, like,
yep.
I am fascinated by their education model. Did you manage to... Like, the deal is, tell me if I'm wrong here, that you get basically as much education as you can eat. Like,
yes.
you pay your money, and you're in, and the material's all asynchronous, so learn as fast as you want to learn.
Yes, and it's not easy. Like, there were so many papers I had to write and so many certifications. I have, like you said, an embarrassing amount of certifications now because of, having to go through these programs, and the certifications being a part of my bachelor's in cybersecurity and information assurance.
They make you land a cert in order to graduate? There's a couple of programs.
A bunch of them.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I think right now I have my, I had a certified associate in project management, and then I got my PMP. I have a CISSP.
Let me see if I can do this. PMP is the project management professional that studies the PMBOK, the Common Body of Knowledge for Project Management. CISSP, I have to look this up every now and then, although I teach for ISE Squared.
Yep.
Certified Information Systems Security Professional.
That sounds right.
Yep. I only remember it because I was like, oh shit, I teach this and I don't know what that means. And then what was the first one you said?
I also have Cloud Security Certification Professional.
CSA.
CSSP.
Right. The one that the Cloud Security Alliance does?
No, that's ISC Squared as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I have some EC Council certifications. Mm-hmm. I have Incident Handler certification and Encryption Specialist certification. And I have ITIL certifications and web security certifications. I actually tend to forget all the certifications that I have now.
On my LinkedIn, it's called it good.
Yeah, they're out there somewhere.
No doubt. And do you where do you come down on the great is a certification worth your time debate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Where do you come down on like the great is getting a cert worth my effort sort of debate? It sounds like you had to do them to advance your academic career.
Yeah, so, okay, for instance, my PMP was something that was going to help with my academic career, but I noticed that everything I was doing in cybersecurity was basically a project. Like that's what we do. It's just we have a specific focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's actually where I went after the PMP that was my motivation is I wanted to learn more about project management. I wanted to learn more about that area. I think that certifications are a great structured way of learning more about specific areas. Also, if you have a career path that you want to pursue, but you don't have that experience yet in that area, the certifications can help you at least show that you understand the concepts of that area. Certifications are always just the beginning of understanding for whatever area you're going into. Mm-hmm. I feel like once I have a certification, even like the PMP, like I'm just beginning to understand what it takes to handle these projects and to really fully use all of that information.
It's truth. You're speaking truth. I love it when people say the things I already believe.
You gave me the script, so no, I'm just kidding.
You want that 20 or not? So if you could go back in time, what kind of advice would you give the younger you in terms of career outcomes?
I would go for the not just what I was interested in at that moment, but I would look more at my future and look at what could have the biggest effect on my future. I would have actually driven myself a little bit more early on to, instead of stopping with an A+ certification, mm-hmm. to continue on to, or like a Network Plus, like to continue on to the CCNAs and the CCNPs and CCIEs, mm-hmm. and try to push myself to continuously pursue that education in my field rather than settling for a while just where I was at and being comfortable.
Kind of getting on that technology treadmill and keeping up.
And just keeping up with it and constantly moving forward. Because if you're constantly moving forward a little bit at a time, then you end up much farther without as much concentrated effort. Like it's just spreading that same knowledge out over a longer time period. I feel like you gain more knowledge over that time, and you can use whatever you learn wherever you're at.
You're making me feel guilty for putting off the 2 research papers I have to write until Sunday.
that was actually one of my goals here.
Thank you. I'm going to get my shit together and do my work. So, if you could envision some kind of program that would help encourage like making this conference less a collection of like 40-something overweight white guys into a more diverse type of event, what kind of program do you think we could create that would get a more diverse population fired up about this industry and start pipelining people into it?
Oh, that is a really good question.
Like this, I'm considering making it the research topic for my PhD. So,
right.
So I realize it's not easy, but I'm spitballing here.
Right.
No bad ideas. It's a safe space.
Okay, so I think being very purposeful of reaching out to specific demographics that are not currently the dominant demographic here is really important.
Overweight, middle-aged white guys? There was
a fat
guy 1K.
There was. And yeah.
There was a lot of people working really hard to make that 1K.
And, well, we sit way too much in the computer industry.
Right. I got one of those sit-stand desks to try and fight that.
I have one, too. I never use it. But I do have one, so...
You have the appearance.
I have the appearance. So, like, maybe moving into some of the inner-city schools and, like, purposefully promoting security and hacking and some of those things, or even going the route of video games and trying to gamify more of this stuff in the city school environment, having that purposeful setting up programs where you're constantly there building relationships with them. Just
Do you think that's something we could recruit like people in the industry to do? I think people would be willing to go down to like 6B school and sit with sixth graders for a while and help them game their way through Hacks R Us or whatever.
I think there's a portion of the people here that would be very into that. I mean, there's the Hacked for Kids
Tried to
organization.
get my kids to do that last year.
Oh,
didn't go well.
But with them having that, that focus on kids like that, they would be a great organization to partner up with and trying to get them to move into some of those demographics. I know there was also a couple years ago, there was a cybersecurity organization here that was here as a vendor for women specifically.
West Michigan, there's a Women in Technology Council.
Yeah. So, like, again, partnering up with them. I don't actually see them here this year.
Might have been a COVID thing. I'm a member. I'm not on the board, so I don't know what the thinking was. But
yeah, there is a little bit different setup here this year because of the COVID stuff. But you know, having that very direct, trying to to reach out to the demographics that are not here. And like when there's advertisement done, specifically advertised to those demographics, you know, a lot of times I've talked to women that I've worked with who do computer stuff, and I've been like, hey, you should really go to GERCON. It's amazing, you know, cybersecurity, it's awesome. And I've actually had that response of, well, there's not very many women there, so I don't want to be the only one. Which, in fact, there are a ton of women here, just not at the same rate as the majority population.
All right, I'm looking around. 1, 2.
I'm looking this direction. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so maybe
and
not
it's
a ton
a sea
this direction.
of dudes. It is a sea of dudes.
Probably 30 dudes to 3 women
so
this
call
direction.
it 15 to 1, something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of looked like that.
But it's more than it used to be.
I feel you. We're making progress. It's slow, incremental progress. I was talking to somebody else today, and they were like, I managed to increase the number of cybersecurity professionals, women cybersecurity professionals in my company by 100% just by showing up. But that's good. I like the insight there. So what do you like about this business? What do you dislike about it?
What do I like about what?
This business, the cybers, if you will.
So I absolutely love cybersecurity. I love that there's always new things to learn. There's always new ways and new approaches that are being taken to handle different issues in it. The thing that I would say I dislike is there's always an overabundance of work. There's not enough people in the industry. There's not enough people to handle everything that we already know needs to be done.
Right.
And so, like, this is one of those battles I think that we're going to have for the next decade or more, where there's going to be a high need for more cybersecurity people, especially cybersecurity people who are well-rounded. When you're working cybersecurity, you can't just know one little niche area. You have to know how that's affected by everything around it. And so, like, getting people who are educated in well-rounded ways in IT and then focused in cybersecurity, I think that's a really important thing that's going to need to happen too.
Gotcha. We can't all be unique unicorns like Atlas of Doom who do reversing all day. You know.
Right.
There are very few organizations who need that particular skill set.
No.
So, are you involved in any? One of the themes that keeps coming up is mentoring or being a mentee. Do you do any of that? Do you have somebody you mentor? Have you been mentored?
I consider the people that I work with, I look at them as my mentors because I can always go to them when I run into issues or problems. Like, having that relationship with the people you work with, I think, is really important. Also, my management team, I feel like I can go to them with any issues
you
that
realize
I have.
They may never hear this.
I do realize
Brown nosing's not going to work.
kind of hoping they do never hear this, but at the same time, they are actually really good. I'm also doing some mentoring for my daughter's robotics club.
Do they do like a USR, US Robotics? Maybe that's just the name of modem manufacturer.
It's First Robotics.
First
like
Robotics.
Lego
thank you.
First, yeah.
Good
Yeah.
deal. Way to be encouraging young women to get into STEM.
Yeah, so that was another one of those where my daughter was originally telling me she didn't want to do robotics. And she likes computer stuff. She codes Minecraft stuff. She likes that stuff. And then she showed me there was a coding for girls thing that she wanted to become involved with. And I was like, you don't want to do robotics, but you want to do the coding for girls. And she's like, yeah, there'll be girls at the other one. There's not going to be any girls at the robotics one.
That's an interesting insight right there.
So we actually went, and it was probably 40% girls that were in this robotics thing. So then she was like, okay, I actually am interested in the robotics. It was a lot of fun because I just brought her there to like test out, see if she would actually enjoy it more than she thought. So now she's
Brought
involved.
my daughter to try Hacks for Kids. Hated it.
Yeah,
Purple passion.
probably not enough girls there.
She likes TikTok, is what she likes to do. She's going to make $1 million as a TikTok. So this was an interesting question. One of the people I talked to threw out. What do you hope to accomplish in this industry? What's your goals?
I think my goals now are, I feel like I've finally gotten to that point where I have a lot of experience in the industry in different areas. And I actually want to try to help shape other people. I want to help, support other people in
What do you think
moving
about
on in their
mentoring?
career. Yeah. That whole mentoring thing, that's actually something that I think it's really interesting to me now. I feel like there's new people in the industry, that there's things that since I've got 25 years in now, I don't feel like I do, but
I know that feel.
The new people that are in the industry, they aren't really sure where to go themselves, and so like to be that person that they bounce ideas off of, and like that I can use my experience for. Like that's one of my goals, is to try to be an influence in the industry wherever I'm at, whether it's locally in the company that I work for, or if it's just mentoring other people in my community that are in the IT community.
That's gorgeous. Like some of the most fulfilling relationships in my life that aren't like my family are those handful of times I've really connected with a student and managed to keep that relationship going and mentor them as it goes along. Some of the best things I'm doing with my life.
That's one of the big things is in IT, a lot of times, especially when we're young in IT, we focus a lot on just the computers, the technology, and try to get away from the relationships with people. But the relationships with people, whether you're working with somebody that you're fixing their computer or BRMs for a business, those relationships with the people are just incredibly important. So when you're talking about the mentorship and like how those are where your these really big relationships have happened, like that's where you can really affect people's lives.
Oh, and like you said big, but they don't really, like some of them are a phone call every other month. Some of them are seeing a guy at Gurkon and getting a hug. Like those kind of relationships sometimes are like, in terms of the actual amount of minutes that I invest in them, not a ton, but huge. Like the investment versus return on those things.
Right, just the
upside's
fact
amazing.
that you're consistently investing in them is making a big difference. So kudos.
So this is kind of one of the questions I like to close with. Can you think of a question I should have asked you that I didn't? Or is there something you think is relevant to the topic at hand that I didn't ask about?
I think you have a pretty good list of questions. I wasn't really thinking of questions sitting here.
Nothing sprang immediately to mind, though?
Nothing sprang immediately to mind.
Okay.
I do think that, like I was talking about the project management, I do think that learning about project management in IT, whether you're cybersecurity or anything in IT, that is one of those things that will really help somebody be able to move forward in their career, because there's so much need for that out there.
You're not alone there. Our advisory board for the CIS department at GRCC has been telling us that and I did my level-headed best to try and hire somebody who could run a project management part of our program. It's just you sons of guns make too much money. So the humble salary of a civil servant community college teacher was not enough to tempt people away from the industry. So we're rethinking that, but I totally agree. It's probably going to be a collaboration between us and the business department. Right, so we're kind of like Scrum, Scaled Agile, that kind of stuff tends to be the hot buzzwords over in the IT side of thing, and then the old PMBOK waterfall method stuff still gets a little bit of play in the business department.
Yeah, I've actually done some work with some red team working groups out there, and one of the things that came up recently was that agile methodologies are being used in red teaming. So, that project management, it's all over the place in IT.
Set up a board, have some user stories put together about how we're going to hack your stuff.
Yeah, something like that.
I was sitting here with two other people this morning, and we were trying to remember the name of the Phoenix Project book. That's sort of the novel about Scrum.
Yeah,
couldn't do it, so we all had to go with it. All right, man. Well, it is a pleasure. I don't really know you, so it was a pleasure to meet you.
It was a pleasure to meet you as well.
I appreciate the insightful conversation. It was great.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
The Feasible Reasoning is produced at the Epic Studios of Grand Rapids Community College, Media Technologies Department. Epically executive produced by Noah D. Smith and hosted by me, Drew Rosema.